Hi, welcome back to Adventure Recapped. Today we set sail for I Know What You Did Last Summer. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. It's the 4th of July. Helen has just been crowned Croaker Queen. Julie's forced to concretely place Max in the friend zone. Barry, Helen's boyfriend, cuts in front of him and proposes a toast to him and his friends. He shoves Max away from them and Max stupidly tries to fight back. Julie's boyfriend Ray breaks up the fight. The friends move to an isolated beach and playfully argue over how the story of the lunatic killer with a hook for a hand really goes. Ray insists the whole thing's based on a true story, which the rest find absurd. The two couples separate for a little bit of private fun. Come time to head back, Ray's the only one sober, so he drives. Barry's obnoxious drunk. He turns on loud music and pops his upper half out the sunroof with a bottle. He spills some liquor back into the car, and off the distraction it causes, Ray rams into a stranger on the road. Everybody immediately argues over what to do. Julie suggests they call the cops. She says it was clearly an accident and that Ray is sober, so they'll be fine. But Ray tells her there's liquor all over the car, and the cops will never buy the fact that he was the one driving. It becomes less of a question of what to do and more emphatic and imperative that they toss the body. A vehicle starts approaching while Ray and Barry are dragging the body, and the driver of said vehicle turns out to be Max. Barry pretends to be throwing up while he says hi to Julie. The friends take the body down to the dock. Helen goes to help Barry roll the body into the water when the man suddenly springs back to life. In a panic, Barry kicks him into the water, but the man manages to go down with Helen's crown in his hand. Refusing to let this happen, a livid Barry jumps into the water. He swims over to the lifeless man still clutching that crown, but when he goes to yank it from the man's hand, his eyes open. Barry panics and kicks his feet as he swims backwards away from the man, crown in hand. He makes it to the surface, and before they get back in the car, Barry demands that they take what happens tonight to the grave. 1 year later. Julie reluctantly comes home for the summer. Her mom tries to lighten her spirits up, but Julie's just kind of existing and nothing more. When her eyes scan old photos, we gather she lost her father recently. That coupled with what happened a year ago, one can understand when she tells her mom it hasn't been her year. Her mom mentions she got a letter. No return address, no postmark. She opens it. I know what you did last summer. The next day, Julie stops over at the shop to see Helen's sister and ask for Helen's New York phone number. But it turns out Helen's home, 10 feet away from her in women's fragrances. She tells her about the letter, then they go to Barry's house. Julie finds out that he and Helen broke up. At first, he's really hostile about the whole thing. He calms down a little and wonders maybe someone did see what happened. And then he remembers Max. Max is surprised to see Barry in his neck of the woods. Barry asks if they can go somewhere private. He immediately threatens Max's life. He grabs an ice pick and swears to take no issue in killing him if he ever messes with them again. They go to leave and see none other than Ray working at the docks. Julie and him broke up that summer. She tells him about the letter and they somewhat talk for a moment. He tells her that he understands that she blames him for what happened. Julie insists that she doesn't blame him at all. At the same time though, she'd prefer not to know him anymore either. Max is all alone at work, or so he thinks. With the same ice pick Barry threatened his life with, somebody murders Max by uppercutting the blade of the pick through the bottom of his chin, and dragging him away. Barry hits the gym that night. In the locker room, he hears a sound while he showers and looks around. Nothing. He goes to his locker and discovers a Polaroid photograph of his BMW. There's a message on the back. Barry realizes his keys are gone and runs outside. He watches his BMW start to drive down the road and chases after it, but the person behind the wheel pulls a reversal and starts to chase Barry instead. He runs him over and plows through a decrepit billboard. Whoever is driving steps out of the car. He's dressed like a fisherman and holding a hook in his hand. He stares down at Barry as if to taunt him. We find out Barry survived but is in the hospital. Back at Julie's house, her and Helen do some research and find out the guy they hit was named David Egan. They wonder if he survived and is now trying to undo some payback. So they drive out to the sticks where he lives. They meet his sister Missy. Acting as if their car broke down, they need to use her phone. Julie tells Missy she looks familiar and then asks if she has a brother by any chance. She tells her that she did, David, but he passed away. She's not shy about the fact that her and her family were devastated to hear the news. She also remembers and points out that someone came to visit after he died, saying he was his friend. Went by Billy Blue. When Helen gets home, she fails to see the fisherman sneak in through the back door, go up the stairs and into her bedroom. When she wakes up the next morning, her hair has been cut off. The word soon is written on her vanity mirror. She screams and calls Julie right away. Julie arrives at Helen's house, but she hears something coming from the trunk. When she pops it open, she finds Max's corpse and a bunch of crabs covering his body, trying to eat him. She hurries inside to get Barry and Helen to show them, but when they come back out, Barry pops open the trunk and there's no body, no crabs. It's very clean. He suggests maybe she imagined things, but she insists that it was real. Out of nowhere, Ray shows up. Perfect timing too. Barry's convinced it was him at this point and punches him in the face. Ray insists it wasn't him. In fact, he came there to tell them that he got a letter. Barry points out how cool that is. Barry gets a hospital bill, Julie gets a dead body in her trunk, Helen gets her hair cut off, and Ray gets a letter. Barry and Helen hit the parade, while Julie travels back to Missy's. Barry tries to keep his eyes peeled for their fisherman friend, but they quickly learn just how many people wear the same style clothing. When Julie gets to Missy's house, she tries to convince the girl that her brother isn't dead, but Missy shows Julie his suicide note. This only further convinces Julie, because not only does the handwriting match that Julie got in the mail, it's the same short style too. Missy gets upset and tells Julie to leave. Back at the town's festivities, we find ourselves at the annual Croaker pageant, where Helen's reign as Croaker Queen comes to an end. Barry watches from the balcony section. Helen cries out as the fisherman pulls Barry into the darkness. She hurries upstairs with an officer, but there doesn't seem to be a sign of anyone. The officer sympathizes with her and offers to take her home. On the way there, they see someone working on their truck that's stalled out. He gets out and offers to help, but it's the fisherman, and he kills the officer before setting his sights on Helen.
If David Egan
Helen frees herself from the cop car and bolts over to her family store. She runs inside and demands that her sister lock all the doors because he's coming. As she goes to do that, he shows up and slashes the poor girl to death. Helen is chased outside and down an alley. She does what she can to make it to the parade and almost manages to, but is killed mere steps away. Julie does more investigating and comes across information related to a car accident that David and his girlfriend Susie were involved in, not far at all from where their accident occurred. David survived, but Susie didn't make it. The same article makes mention of Susie's father, Ben Willis. Julie hurries to Ray and tells him what she found. He offers his hand and she almost goes into his boat until she sees the name of his boat, Billy Blue. Julie's disgusted and terrified and she runs for it. Ray chases after her. Someone on the dock stops Ray from chasing her and tells Julie to hide on his boat. So she does, but when she gets on his boat, she realizes this is Ben Willis's boat. With the boat adrift, Ben aims to kill Julie. Chasing leads to hiding leads to Julie in an ice room uncovering the dead bodies of Helen and Barry. Ray takes a motorboat over to where Ben and Julie are. Ben greets them by name and tries slashing him. The two go back and forth and Ray is knocked into a lever that alters the rigging system. Julie gets back to the boat's surface just in time to find herself face to face with Ben again. Ray swings a weighted hook into Ben's face. As Ray and Julie go to escape, Ben throws Ray aside and grabs Julie. He tells her next time they leave a man dead, they better make sure he's really dead. He goes to kill her, but his hand interlocks with a rope. Ray pushes a lever to tighten its hold, and the rope swings Ben up in the air, where his hand gets detached from his body and he's flung into the water, finally left to truly drown. Well, that's one way to get your ex back. A year later, Julie runs a shower while on the phone with Ray, expressing her love for him. She steps out briefly and sees a note waiting for her. Could it be? No return address, no postmark. She opens it up. Oh, thank God. It's just an invitation to a pool party. Back in the fogged up bathroom, oh shit. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel with your post notifications on. It would really help out a lot.